on the dual employment. And when you go on abroad, you still come back to India, and the intention is always doubted. So, what is the solution for that? That's a question from Umesh Gala's office. See, I'll tell you, you have to establish intention, right? Just give you a flair of how to establish intention. When you come from your native place to study in Mumbai, what do? Do you take two-way tickets or one-way ticket? One-way ticket, right? So when you go abroad for the employment, take a one-way ticket, don't take the return ticket. Yeah, that's a first test. When you go for employment, please do not buy two-way tickets, buy single ticket at the cost of whatever price it may be. That is number one. The number two, when you go abroad, don't stay in a non-permanent accommodation. Stay in a permanent accommodation. Even though if you can afford hotel every day, stay in a rented apartment, right? Or an owned apartment by the company. But do not stay in an accommodation where you can't establish your intention of a permanent stay outside India. Number two. Number three, your vehicles. Whether you own vehicle in India, you have 5 cars in India, at least 1 car you should have in London. You may not have driver, doesn't matter. Fourth, you have your insurance in India, covering your Mediclaim and etc. Have insurance from Bupa Insurance Company, which is a well-known company in the world, headquartered in UK. Bupa Insurance Company. When you are non-resident Indian, you are not allowed to take a general insurance. When you are resident India, you are not allowed to take a general insurance from abroad. But when you are abroad, you can take general insurance from whichever company you want. So see that you have a general insurance for Mediclaim, as well as the accident, as well as the house insurance from a company, preferably international company. Because the Indian company will have a difficulty to pay you the international cost for Medicare, medicines and etc. Then comes to your clubhouses. You are a member of CCI, member of Bombay Gymkhana, member of the club in Mahalakshmi, but you are not a member of any of the clubs abroad. Have a good, respectable club membership like Crawford or Comfort clubs in United Kingdom. Then your normal travel plans should be based out of UK and not out of India. You're going to Dubai for business. What you will do is, return ticket from India is taken to India. Let's go India first and then go another buy ticket, another ticket from India to Dubai and return to India and then again buy ticket for return tickets. So your intentions are established to say that your headquarters is in India and not outside India. These are only few tests I have read down, but there are number of tests. If I number, it is 22 in our office. If you want to, so anybody of you say, Deepika can email you those tests. Deepika, you have ready test with you? Yeah. So that is the answer. Thank you very much. So what is there to laugh? Sir? No, we cannot circulate because you know that there are certain things that written cannot circulate. Although it is a circular law, we cannot circulate so many things. Right? Next case study 4. See, we will concentrate on 3 case studies now, not everything, because that propounds the law and the process. Just to the thing perhaps you can read and understand. I don't think there should be problem. So we will not hurry up unless you say I am too slow. Discuss the various alternatives available to Mr. NRI in India to explore real estate business, purchase and sale of import properties in India. Discuss the opportunity in the background of various provisions under the FEMA. What it says, what are the alternatives available, and discuss under FEMA. Means generally what are the possibilities and what is contemplated and what is approved by FEMA and what is not approved by FEMA. That's the case study. Mr. NRI, now Mr. Lewis has become NRI, so he want to see what he can do in India and what he cannot do in India in respect of the immovable properties in India. Friends, again, the fundamental law that the provision is available to you in a straight jacket formula. What is available in straight jacket is only available under that formula. What is not available, you have to look for elsewhere. But you can't just twist and turn in order to attain your objective or attain the client's objective. So therefore, what are the provisions affecting the immovable properties of a non-resident in India? Very simple. What are those provisions? When you are saying non-resident Indian, you may say covered PIO also, person of Indian origin, because the NRI accepts the Indian passport, he becomes PIO. See the difference between resident Indian, non-resident Indians and the PIO. Very simple. Ideally, all are understood to be are not resident of India, or a person resident outside India, PROI. When you are resident, you know what you are resident. When you become non-resident, you do not surrender your passport immediately. So you hold the passport with you. So therefore, a person resident outside India but an Indian citizen is a non-resident Indian. Person who is a non-resident Indian surrenders his passport and takes a foreign passport. Is a person of Indian origin. Is a person of Indian origin. A person who is born outside India has no place to find out whether he had an origin in India or not, is a foreign citizen. Mr. Bill Clinton is a foreign citizen. He is no PIO, he is no NRIs. So these are the distinction between the three. I believe you know all these things very short, right? But when you read the definition of PIO, person who is a foreign citizen having held an Indian passport any point of time. He has passport any point of time. We had a Citizenship Act 1955 which entitles you to a passport because of your citizenship. And we have Indian Passport Act 1967 dealing with the provisions of the passport and how you can deal with the passport. And you have a PIO already defined under the Constitution. Then when you see first limb, he held Indian passport at any point of time. Then he says that the second limb is whose fathers, forefathers or grandparents were citizens of India or were PIO. Then the third, the spouses of any one of the above were a person of Indian origin or citizen of India. If you make permutation and combination with a one person, there are 27 combinations in which you can say that I am a person of Indian origin. Because first limb, second limb, three limb, right? Three limb. So you have to select any one at a time out of the three. And how many combinations you can make? It is 27 combinations. Then who can become PIO? Yeah. Like no link you can sometimes find, oh, he's still becoming PIO. So I'm just trying to give you can explore sometime in the office when you don't have time. So that is about NRI, PIO and the resident Indian and the foreign citizen. Now, the first and foremost hand which you can lay is on notification 21. That immovable properties by NRIs and the PIOs and the foreign citizens. Regulation 3 deals with NRI. Regulation 4 deals with PIO. And Regulation 7 deals with the prohibitions. And Regulation 2 defines PIO. I have seen the presentation on immovable properties. There was a third limb which is missing in the presentation. So you can add a third limb because there is an amendment in the law. All the three limbs should be there. Yeah, just I could see the presentation. I could not find the third limb. So the third limb is introduced by our amendment. That these spouses are also now included for the purpose of considering the PIO. Just give you a flag that why spouses will make difference. If a foreign citizen of Afghanistan or Iran or Nepal and Bhutan has a wife who is an Indian citizen, but for the limb third, you could not have bought the property in the wife's name. You're understanding the implication of third limb. The wife of a prohibited citizen could perhaps buy immovable properties in India, because foreign citizens of this country are only prohibited, not the spouses who are PIO. So there is an element of opportunity if one come across this situation, because the third limb is very much there now. Earlier it was not there. The second opportunity is in terms of notification 20, schedule 1. Only NRIs are permitted to enter into a construction activity and not anybody else. Under the FDI policy, foreigners permitted with a press note 2 of 2005. The press note 2 of 2005 and the consulate policy does not apply to NRIs. They form part of the automatic route under schedule 1, and they can do all 6-7 activities which are framed, which are provided in notification 20, schedule A, part 2. So that is about the construction activity of the NRIs in schedule 1. Schedule 1 is on a repatriation basis. Then NRIs can do the similar activity of construction under schedule 4 of notification 20, but that is on a non-repatriation basis. So purchase and sale of immovable properties individually permitted in notification 21. Construction activity on a repatriation basis is permitted in schedule 1 of FEMA 20. Construction activity, similar activity as permitted in schedule 1 is permitted in schedule 4 on a non-repatriation basis. And last, if you happen to have a foreign partner to do the construction activity in India, FDI policy is available. FDI policy, because now the foreigner and an Indian non-resident Indian will be partner in the Indian company to carry out the FDI activity. Again, another difference and another opportunity is a partnership form under notification 24, where NRIs are freely permitted to enter into construction activity on a non-repatriation basis. Again, another partnership form. So 21 individual only, 20 schedule 1 individual NRIs by virtue of investing in Indian company on a repatriation basis. Schedule 4 company wrote again Indian company on a non-repatriation basis, and no partnership in notification 20. Partnership notification 24 on a non-repatriation basis. So therefore, see the compartment. Only companies, only individuals, repatriation, non-repatriation, partnership, non-repatriation. You can't cross border. Therefore, giving an example, again repeating, an individual wanting to buy property through an Indian company is prohibited, because company route is available only for the construction activity, either on a non-repatriation basis or on a repatriation basis, not for the purchase of property. I have heard many banks do advise NRI friends that if you form a company in India, receive rent into that company, we can perhaps give you a loan. And therefore, please form a company, we will grant you a loan. I have seen large bank, largest private bank advising on this subject. So therefore, you have to consider the interpretation law and the process of the law properly in order to execute these transactions of the client. This is what I wanted to say about 21, 20, Schedule 1, Schedule 4, 24, non-repatriation basis. Is that clear to all of us? Now coming to the controversy in the provisions. This is FDI policy. Then we have notification 20, the activity A, B, C, D, E, F, G that can be carried out. And again, these items which are mentioned A, B, C, D, E, F, G somehow missed in the master circular. The consolidated policy does not talk of these items because they only talk about sectoral policy. These items were never included in sector policy earlier also. They are found only in annexure to the FEMA Notification 20, which is not amended so far. Sometimes you wonder why this is not appearing anywhere. Believe me friends, this is not appearing in master circular, this is not appearing in consolidated FDI policy. Anybody has found this?
No.
Right?
Again, they have removed participation in the venture investment participation venture, this line they have removed in.
So therefore, this is available to us. Right? Sometimes if we don't remember the circular which is not found in master circular, it helps us. Here is not helping us. That is the only difference. Sometimes you say, oh, this was not there in master circular, so I have done this transaction. So here it is a disadvantage. Now, the controversy. Controversy is therefore analyzed in Regulation 3 of the FEMA 21. It says you can transfer any property to a person resident in India. You can transfer any property to a person resident in India. Now, anyone who is a not, let's say you are a non-resident Indian, right? You want to purchase the property or acquire the property. If a Mr. Lewis with his family and his father went to UK and all are non-resident Indian. If a father want to bequeath the immovable property including agricultural property to his son, Mr. Lewis, then that permission by inheritance is not covered in Regulation 3. He said it can acquire by inheritance only the properties other than the agricultural property. Now the question arises whether the FEMA will override the general law of inheritance, maybe Hindu Succession Act, or the FEMA will stay because FEMA says you can do only this thing and nothing else can be done by you. So whether the FEMA will override inheritance or inheritance will override the FEMA. That's a question, because when you say transfer any immovable property to a person resident in India, that means in Notification 21, when you say any immovable property, that means it includes agricultural as well as non-agricultural. Then they say transfer any property, immovable property other than the agricultural property, then it is a commercial property, a residential property and the land other than the agricultural property. So it is so clumsily worded Regulation of 21 that you could have said very simply, three things. That you can acquire any property, whether resident outside India or foreign citizen outside India, which means NRI and PIO, other than the agricultural property from anywhere. You could have said you can transfer agricultural land by inheritance to anyone and to a person resident in India who is a citizen of India. Similarly, for acquisition of other properties, it should be having done two sets, agricultural and non-agricultural, transfer and transferee. That's all. It should have included it, but it is. I believe it is a miss. It is not designed. So therefore, one may go to RBI for the clarification. If we want to go to the discussion on the wording, then it is available. Here in the last three lines, transfer any movable property in India to a person resident in India. Transfer any movable property in India to a person resident. They should have covered person resident in India as well as person resident outside India who are NRIs or PIOs, which is missing here. So inheritance mode is not covering person resident outside India. Even section 6.4 does not cover it. whereas a holding approval inheritance is required. There also they say a non-resident Indian can acquire by inheritance a property from resident Indian only. It does not talk about non-resident Indian in 6.4 and 6.5 also. I checked 6.4 and 6.5 also, which is not giving you the solution. So this is a case of clarification from RBI. If you want to transfer the property by inheritance to a person not resident in India, either NRI or a PIO. Is that clear to you? Repatriation of self proceeds. This is again provision which we have discussed, so I will not go into further details. So we go to case study 5. This is a very important case study from the practice point of view. Case study 5. Friends,
Excuse me, sir. Sir, in the case study number 4,
yes,
transfer by way of a will, inheritance by both the modes, testate as well as intestate, both will be
inheritance, isn't it?
both not possible.
There's no change in
Sir, but then
the terminology, whether it is by will or otherwise, it's inheritance. When it is not a will, the law operates for the inheritance Hindu Succession Act, isn't it?
sir, then in
It's
that
again inheritance only. You are satisfied with the first answer on test, intention test? On intention test? Okay, thank you. This is a UK company, which is an existing company. This is a case study on an overseas investment, on borrowings, on current account transactions, on capital account transaction, and on the business model of the film production. Because when you structure certain transaction, you cannot forget the business model. So you need to consider the business model in the production of film, in the film industry. And a fundamental of a high-end practice on FEMA is that if you can structure a transaction in a manner which is the FEMA compliant condition of auto route, or your ability to convert a capital account transaction into a current account transaction. It's the most important, that if you can convert any transaction which is given to you as a capital account transaction by the client, if you can convert with the same condition in the business model into a current account transaction, it's the biggest win in life. Because you are then removing all hurdles of conditions and all hurdles of prior approvals and all hurdles of the condition within the notifications. So here we are going to test that how to convert a capital account transaction into a current one. So that's why it is very important. A UK company engaged in the production of international film proposed its next production during 2014-15 to be completed and released by 30th April 2015. We are in 30th April 2014. The film is budgeted at a cost of GBP 1 million, which is partly financed by Indian co-producer. On the release of the film, Indian co-producer will have all the rights in relation to Indian territory, and UK company will have worldwide rights except that of India. And the film contemplates about 30% cost in India and about 70% cost in UK. Shooting in India at 100,000 GBP, about 1 crore rupees. 50% principal star cast from India for a consideration of GBP 200,000. And the 700,000 cost pre-production, post-production, supporting artists, cameraman, choreographer, directors, etc. outside India, which is in UK. Indian co-producer is a company with a paid-up capital of 500,000 net worth, and therefore he can part finance the film very easily at the rate of 50% because 1 million GBP is the cost. Indian company is seeking immediate solution to the finance, the structuring of the co-production finance, as it did not have time to approach RBI for prior approval, if any. Kindly advise the Indian company. Friends, just to understand business model for 2 minutes. A finance arrangement and a finance is an important part of funding the Bollywood production houses. Until we had the UTV, the Mukhtar, and etc. being corporates. And financier used to play a very important role in any production of the film. They used to, most of the time, earn more than the producer. Example, Sholay movie. Distributor earn 10 or 100 times more than the producer, right? So, the producer was always at the mercy of the financier. And then slowly, financier has become a distributor, whether they had a core knowledge of or a domain knowledge of the industry or not. That's the life of the film industry. Another aspect of the film industry is the tax aspect of the film industry. You do not get the 100% deduction of the cost of the production in a year in which it is released. It is a quarter-wise under the rule of the income tax. That if it is released in the last quarter, then you get only so much deduction. So therefore, the tax advantage is a favorable outside the India. There, most of the places, entire cost of the production is available for set-off in the year of release itself. The UK is a one territory where entire cost of the production of the film is available for deduction in the first year itself, if it is released in that. Second. Number 3, most of the countries are motivating the production of the film in their countries to preserve the representation of the ethnic community and the industry per se. The UK has a 70 language prescribed in the schedule of the Ministry of Cultural Affairs, that if any of this movie is prepared, then this advantage is available to the producers, which includes Hindi movie as one of the ethnic language of the UK government under the auspices of the Cultural Ministry of UK. They give you subsidy on the pre and the post-production cost incurred in UK. These subsidies are ranging from 15% to 40%, depending on the presence in the UK and the spending from the UK. You know, Indian can do actually the cost which is actually different from the actual cost. And you get the subsidy which is actually different than what UK government would think of. They have misused this law to such an extent the UK government has to amend the law in 2005 with a more restricted manner in which this subsidy can be granted. This is enough for the time on the Bollywood industry. Now, it is an existing company. Your investment is to be made immediately. You do not have time. Your 100% of the capital is equivalent to your contribution to the foreign company, but it is an existing company. Under Regulation 6A of Notification 120, you are required to value the shares of the existing company. If the value is more than $5 million by an investment banker, and if it is less than the $5 million by a chartered accountant, maybe Indian chartered accountant. So you are in loop. You are stuck at the valuation level. So you can't invest on a next day by filling the form ODI in its various parts A, B, C, D, E, F. So the certificate which is in part F is stuck basically because value has to be determined. So how do we structure this transaction is a question, is a moot question. That without valuation, how do we progress on this transaction? See, ideally, my cost is $1 million US, right? I have $5 million. It's a Hindi movie, but named as international movie, right? I could ask my UK investor to invest in an Indian company where FDI is free. 100% FDI is allowed in the production of the movie. If you notice earlier, in Notification 20, there were limits like NBFC companies on production of movie, that how much percentage you can own in a movie production company if you invest so much.